Hey everybody, welcome back to the COVID Cocktail Club, Friday edition. Hope you guys enjoyed your mojitos or your Southside yesterday. We've got, I think, a fun one in store for today. Given that it's a Friday, we like to do something a little fancy on Fridays. But before we do that, as we also like to do on Fridays, we want to recognize somebody. And as we've said every week, there's been just amazing feedback and great energy out there. And most importantly, we're glad that you guys are taking advantage of the opportunity to mess around in the bar and make some fun cocktails. But I do want to call out one person in particular who's been very active from day one. She posts great pictures. It feels like daily, Ricey, would you say?
Virtually every day, there's something.
Yeah, every day. And that is Robin. Robin has done an amazing job. I think really getting engaged and having fun with this whole process. And really that was the point from day one, is to really get you guys to, try to find 20, 30 minutes a day to have fun, take your mind off all this mess out there, and really learn to experience some fun things in the bar. And she's really absolutely taken the bull by the horns.
Robin and her husband both have been doing some really awesome riffs all week. I've seen some really creative riffs on it, and we especially love that mini-me shot. That was priceless, so take a look.
And guys, everyone else out there, please keep the pictures coming, keep the feedback coming. If there's drinks out there that we still haven't gotten to yet, let us know. This is meant to be very much a collaborative effort, so keep it coming. So let's get started with today's cocktail. Today's cocktail is the French 75. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of it. Probably most of you have even had one before. But if you have not, it's a great, I like to call it booze plus bubbly cocktail. I'm gonna give fun facts here, nerdy fun facts. Just a couple quick ones. Roll your eyes. The French 75 actually was invented back in the early 1900s in France for obvious reasons. It was actually named after a gun that was used in World War I, which was meant to be light and powerful. The drink itself also kind of light. You'd think it's sort of light and easy, but it actually has, I'd say it has a nice kick to it.
It packs a punch.
It really does. You'll find out in a few minutes what's in it, but it's a little heavier than you think. So even though it may be good for day drinking, you want to keep an eye on how many you've had, because it'll get you. So anyways, it's bright, it's crisp, it's delicious. I think you guys are gonna enjoy it. We're gonna talk, as we often do, about the core recipe, but we're also gonna talk about some fun riffs that I see Ricey's got a couple things out in her bar. I've got a couple. So you guys can both play with original, but also play with some new sort of more contemporary classics, if you will. So Rice, what do you have to play with up there? It's like Campari.
Well, you know what? I'm gonna tell you guys about a totally different riff later using that guy, but the basics of this recipe are, like we said, pretty basic. I mean, it's gin and lemon juice, simple syrup, and some bubbly. So it's nice to throw in some fun things to play with in there. I'm throwing in some Metallicus Rosolio. This is some really beautiful stuff that just sort of makes everything taste a little bit better when you add it to it. I'm also going to play with a really nice gin today. That's it's Empress gin. This guy is infused with butterfly pea flower, so it's hard to see, I guess, on the video because I've used up so much of it. But it's it's purple, and it changes colors when mixed with tonic or citrus. So it may go a little bit pink on us today when we are mixing this, but I think it'll be a fun gin to play with.
Yeah, I'm using a Hendrick's, but instead of the classic Hendrick's, it's more cucumber and rose petal. This is a little more floral. It's called the Midsummer Solstice. They actually did one in the fall as well that was more of a lotus blossom flavor, but they're kind of fun. They're seasonal. So if you're looking to just add something fun to your bar that you're not going to have year round, that's, again, more seasonal, this is a good one. So I'm going to try this today. I've actually not tried it as a French 75.
Yeah, I have that. He's nice. Interestingly, the bottle on him is purple, but the actual alcohol is not.
Right.
So that's a little deceiving. It's a beautiful bottle, though.
One quick tidbit to go back to the nerdy facts. The original French 75 actually did not even have gin in it. It had cognac. I want to say in the late, I think I was reading, the late 20s, they were playing around with the recipe and subbed out the cognac for gin, and it became much more popular. So it sort of stood that way. If you go to New Orleans, there's actually a bar called the French 75. It's actually Arnaud's French 75. And there, they still stick to the original recipe. There's a few riffs, but they still really appreciate the classic that has cognac in it. So you can also play around with that if you really want to go back in time and try the original.
There's also a riff called a French 95 that stays true to the actual recipe, but it subs out the gin for bourbon.
Imagine that. And then what's your French 75 with mezcal called?
How do you say 75 in Spanish?
Right.
That's what it is.
One quick point also, guys. Ricey mentioned the Italicus, which I love. To me, Italicus is sort of an updated version of what Saint Germain was about, what, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It was like the hottest liqueur out there. This is still really good. In fact, they even called it the bartender's ketchup. It can just sort of be used, really with anything. So that's a good one to add. And then also, if you've ever had a Cure Royale, it has creme de cassis in it. So you could do a riff on a Cure Royale meets a French 75 and add a splash of creme de cassis as well. So
That's
again,
that's like a blackberry, right?
it is actually, no, actually, creme de cassis is actually black currant.
Okay.
Now, I have seen Cure Royale recipes with blackberry liqueur. So
Okay.
again, same concept.
Sure.
The whole point is we just want to have fun with these drinks, take these drinks that are
Yeah,
classic.
you can also use Chambord and make it raspberry.
Exactly. So shall we get started?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, since we're using our citrus and our simple syrup, we are going to shake this one, guys.
Yep. All right, I'm gonna get some ice.
1 ounce of your gin. Mine's that purple stuff. 1/2 ounce fresh lemon juice. 1/2 ounce fresh simple syrup.
I'm using agave nectar.
Okay.
Truth be told, I'm actually out of simple syrup. So you may notice mine's a little bit darker in color. In fact, I noticed yesterday the south side I made yesterday was slightly darker than the mojito. That was only because the agave is a little bit darker.
I could have used my lavender simple syrup again. That would have been nice.
Yep, that would be nice.
And I'm throwing in 1/4 ounce of Italicus, just for funsies.
I'll keep mine classic for now.
Okay. And we're gonna shake it. Another really nice riff that I've done with this is a grapefruit French 75, which is if you're looking for something to do with that Campari that you used on Tuesday to make the Negronis, it uses it in this recipe, but it's not quite as bitter. So it's a really nice way of tempering the Campari. If you're still new to Campari, I definitely recommend it. It's 1 ounce of gin, 1/2 ounce of grapefruit juice instead of lemon, 1/4 ounce of Campari, 1/4 simple syrup, and then you just still top that with the bubbly, and it's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a beautiful drink too.
Yeah, gorgeous color if you use those ruby reds.
And Rice, it looks like you're using a flute.
I am going to use a flute.
Okay, and a flute, guys, you're gonna find it's probably the more classic way to serve it. If you were to look up pictures online, you're gonna see almost always served in a flute. I'm actually using a coupe. I tend to lean towards coupes when I can. I think it's also a classic way to present it, but either way is fine. It's a pretty color.
It's a gorgeous color.
Now, the key ingredient here that makes it the French 75 is the bubbly. Classic recipe calls for champagne. The reason for that, champagne's a little drier. Also, it's a little more, what's my favorite word?
French.
Effervescent.
It's also more French.
That was, well, that too. I'm talking the word you like to make fun of.
Yes.
Anyways, it provides a little more effervescence, as Ricey loves to make fun of me for using. But yes, obviously being a French 75. However, most people do not have just champagne bottles lying around that they want to open up on a weeknight. So you can find Cava and Prosecco in these little small splits. So you can do Ricey size Prosecco bottles, Cava bottles, and make.
Love the Ricey size bottles.
And then you can actually get about 2 drinks out of it. So it's a good kind of weeknight alternative. Certainly if you're hosting a brunch, a larger bottle would be better.
Yeah, if you're making it in bulk, and this is an easy one to make for tons of people. And again, your lemon twist as you're making this, I'm getting a beautiful shower of all that lemon oil. And making my twist.
Yours is definitely prettier than mine.
I mean.
Oh, it's not because of you, it's because of the Empress.
Or because of me.
Take your time, we're no rush.
I'm just hanging on to that pretty comment. Okay.
All right, these look good.
They look great. Okay, I'm putting up the shopping list for next week. Next week, we're going to stretch you a little bit. We're going to give you a couple of more bottles Again, if you don't want to buy all the bottles, that's fine. We'll give you some substitutions. But the longer we get into this, the more, you know, if you guys want to get experimental, we're going to give you some lesser known cocktails next week, because we did a bunch of classics this week. And yeah, we hope that you enjoy them, but they are definitely going to be a little bit more interesting.
And here's to egg whites. I'm looking forward to egg whites next week.
Egg whites, some coffee, some mezcal.
Mezcal, really? Shocked.
I know you're surprised.
Cheers, Rice.
Cheers, Jason.